everyone. So now the session would be with JASTIP and JASTIP talking with the AS- ASEAN Talent Mobility Expert Group, focusing on the opportunity for Japan-ASEAN collaboration in developing the mobility program. So I just want to recap what we've done earlier. So for the 3-day event, for yesterday, we start to have a meeting and looking at, on this morning, we're looking at the TOR of the expert member, and then also the concept note regarding how we will drive the ASEAN Talent Mobility Program with the different platform. So we think we got a lot of ideas from yesterday as well, learning from the keynote and looking at the status for each member states. And so for today, it's a great opportunity. So we have about 1 hour. I know it's not enough, but it's just a starting of a conversation. So we hope that for today, it's just like the appetizer to see how we can talk about later on. And hopefully that with this appetizer, we can talk about with the main course tomorrow and some kind of conclusion as the dessert, all right? Because yesterday we talked a lot about curry, so today I'm talking about the full course meal right now. Okay, so the objective of today, can you please share my slides? Yeah. So the main is that this is just the list of talking points in the beginning, but this is set up as the guide for us to start the conversation. But I do feel that we've deep dive a little bit deeper than that, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the ASEAN Talent Community platform or different units and houses. In our concept note, as well as way to move forward. So the expected outcome from this roundtable discussion is we want to maybe like highlight some implementable initiative that we can collaborate with each other, and if we can rank or priority, which is important, and work our way toward how can we collaborate, what kind of mechanism can be. So for the first one, the roundtable discussion is I'll just talk all the discussion point for now and to see who want to chime in upon what. So for the ASEAN, we call ourselves ATM Expert Group. Okay, so the ATM Expert Group, what are the role? Maybe looking at the how can we be the STI coordinator? Because one of our function is also to coordinate, not coordinate internally among in our country organization, and also we need to coordinate with external partners, also with dialogue partners as well. Okay, so like that may be how role how we can work about it like that regarding the promotion or the creating programs for the talent mobility in ASEAN. And then maybe we can share some good practices in the existing program. And then if we can share good practices or how we can build upon those existing programs, that would be awesome too. And then maybe prioritize, identify the program that can be executable. So we're trying to to get an endorsement for ASEAN talent mobility to be the costly priority for next year. So we hope that with the program that is identified, maybe in this meeting, we can move on to have it a real implementation, have it for next year. So we can also report to the costly meetings as well. So I think that would be set as an ASEAN priority. And then the last one is mechanism to utilize existing network, both in ASEAN, Japan, and others, and see how we can grow together, make plans. For this is mainly an open discussion as a roundtable. So anyone can also chime in, and we'll have people to take notes, okay, as well. And the people on the second row, if you want to give your comments, just raise your hand, and then there will be a microphone moving over to you. Okay, so I think this is more an open opportunity, and then maybe a starting point of the discussion, how we can be, is that maybe we can share something that regarding identify the role or good but practices. And also, we talk among the expert group that our focus for the ASEAN talent mobility would be according to these kind of 5 units. So think for the Japan side, you saw the concept note a little bit about these 5 units. Just to recap, so for us, we want to drive these 5 units, or we call it 5 houses. The starting one is looking at how can the ATM Expert Group to help mobilize and be the coordination unit. So maybe this might touch upon your STI coordination on this houses as well, the coordination of both internally and then externally as well. The second one is regarding the talent warehouse. We noticed that when we talk about the status of each of the member, that a lot of us have our own database, but how can we, of the talent, how can we align to make use of the talent pool and matching, and to see how do we upskill, reskill. The third one is ATM Academy. We hope to have the collection of capacity building program, both in hard skill, technical skill, and then also soft skill, and then promote the talent and response to social and economic impact and help with ASEAN. And also the fourth one is research houses, in the sense of the ATM community can help coordinate and form research houses to tackle various ASEAN grand challenges. And maybe we can talk about what are the ASEAN grand challenge, and which is the priority or where we can tackle. The last one is the guest house, the most important house, and how we can collaborate and coordinate with our dialogue partners and also private sectors to promote the ASEAN talents, to mobilize and to create impact through various activities. So it's an open invitation right now for us to give our comments or recommendations, or just bring out some ideas. I'm just like putting this as a starting point for us to start the conversation. Yeah, okay. I know it's a lot of people, but each of you don't talk too long. I speak too much, so each of you keep it for 2 minutes, all right? And then we'll do that. All right. How about, can you like maybe start with your ideas of how when you collaborate? Okay.
Hello, I'm Ms. Nobukano from Japan. I'm a professor in a university, but also serving as a council member for Ministry of Education and something else, STI, in charge of human development and also international affairs. Therefore, I wish to know what are the obstacles for you to build more collaboration with ASEAN and also Japan? Because just to know what's happening around us is not only the way to know how we could improve the things, but the viewpoints from the outside would be very important to improve that as a whole. And therefore, I wish to learn from you what your ideas and what we can do as government, although I'm not the person to decide things, but I can convey your messages to the government people. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Regarding to the obstacle on, and how might we overcome to build more collaborations, and what can be the enabler to create more collaborations between ASEAN and Japan? Okay.
Sorry to add something else. There's a discussion a lot between the basic science and applied science, right? And also in Japan, we have developed this science from 150 years ago to, how to say, the intention to make the country stronger. That means that we have some tendency to the applied science for the first time. But since then, we have developed the basic science as well. And we believe that both are important. But to do both, we need to, how to say, balance between them by knowing the reality, but also the theory too. So how we can balance between them? It is great for us to discuss on that point too in this session. Thank you so much. Maybe 1 hour would be too short to do that.
It's an appetizer, so start the conversation, but don't finish it until your lunchtime. Okay, yes, please.
Yes, I'm Kono, coming from Kyoto University, and also the PI of JASTIP. And I'm currently the Vice President for Kyoto University. And about the points Dr. Warachitz mentioned about all the discussion, right? Like good practice, particularly from the JASTIP. I think we can listen to the voices of JASTIP members, particularly in the ASEAN side. They must have some experiences about the STI coordinators, role of STI coordinators in talent mobility. We have some professionals of STI coordination, and so let them speak. So my comments now is that what Kyoto University is doing, or try to do, because talent mobility is also, of course, I know that it's an important issue for ASEAN country, but it's also important for Kyoto University or university in Japan. We want to eager to mobilize people, but so far people are not moving around, and we are pushing. And so how to do it? One is we have to diversify the way of talent mobility. So far we have some fixed, some specific way of talent mobility, right? Like visiting fellow, or move the jobs, or in case of student, they go to study master or doctoral degrees, and but now we have like semester based how to say international experiences, and what I am thinking now is that some sort of double appointment, one professor have the position not only Kyoto University, at the University of ASEAN, right? And it's something similar to join to a double degree program for the student, but we can extend that idea to the faculty or teachers, or it can be between university and private sectors. So we must have a much diverse way of talent mobilities, and that is what I try to we try to explore. That is the first point. And the second point is that we need some resources to promote talent mobility. And so far, we mainly depends on government money. But the government of Japan is now becoming poor. and, but at the same time, for example, so many private sectors, Japanese companies are working in ASEAN countries. Some companies also set up research and development center in ASEAN, and they are very much interested in working with academia. But still, the collaboration is not so many. They are not willing, but if they find some benefit for them, they are ready to provide some resources for promoting talent mobility. And so now we are contacting with several, and that is what we are forced to do by the government, by the Ministry of Education in Japan. So now we are contacting with some private sectors. It may work well, and I don't know whether it may work well. But anyway, it is one possibility. And I believe that even for the private sector in ASEAN, they must how can I say, they must want to work with academia. It is another way, but I think these are worth trying to do. So diversification of way of talent mobility, diversification for resource of talent mobility, that is what we have to think. Thank you very much.
Can we use the 2 minutes from the ASEAN Secretariat? So first of all, we would like to extend our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Japan through JASTIP for supporting ASEAN cooperation for the past 50 years. in commemorating our 50th anniversary, it's good that we have this some engagement today to explore more opportunity for Japan and ASEAN ASEAN cooperation. We are happy to support JASTIP on the ongoing initiative and potential future cooperation, although we know that JASTIP might cease to exist until end of this year. Our role at the ASEAN Secretary is to observe this meeting and gather as much input as possible, but we don't want to direct the discussion so much. We concur with the point that we need to strike the balance between fundamental and applied research. So I'd like to also convey two messages from our top management at the ASEAN Secretariat. First, we would like to continue cooperation with RICON, RCSS, and Fugaku on quantum computing and HPC, high performance computing. And secondly, which also relates to the point raised just now, we want to have more cooperation with the private sector. We in fact already connect and engage with JETRO based in Jakarta. We would like to explore 7 areas. Number 1, advanced manufacturing, 4AR, artificial intelligence, robotics, automotive, medtech, and space exploration. We agree that we need to diversify our cooperation, maybe through JETRO and also through JASTIP. Going back to the question on the obstacle we face at the regional level, 2 main obstacles would be number 1, to match Japan priority with 10 ASEAN member states priority. It's very challenging. And the second one is the complexity of Japanese STI agency structure. So we need to simplify and streamline everything. That would be all from the ASEAN Secretariat.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, ASEAN Secretariat. Any other comments or maybe discussion points that we want to talk about? Dr. Lily, please.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Ms. Chairs. My name is Lily, related from National Energy Technology Center, NASTA. I think I kind of want to echo what the chairs and Kono Sensei and others mentioned about the, like how ASEAN and Japan would like to collaborate, and they already have tools and the existing program. But how we can make it successful. I think one of the main idea is what JASTIP already started, which is a coordinator program for science and technology. So I think that's very important because, I mean, I know that ASEAN Sec is very active on, all the important roles that ASEAN Secs already do, and also the ministry of all countries. But then they are dealing with the bigger issue. But then when you want to, for example, if you want to mobilize people, you know already that there are existing program in each country. But then how the user could connect and, like be access to those resources, they don't really know. So how we can make it work? I think the coordinator program would be the answer, because I think what we need is a more structure of the coordinator. For example, if you want to make for ATM work, you need like really the coordinator of each country to maybe link and connect together, make the resource more accessible to the user, connect the users to the guest house or the academic house that you mentioned, and then then they can connect, and the funder could come in and support the user, support the person who actually provide the training hub, for example. So I mean, I know that I'd say that it's not like very clear, but in my mind I can see that the coordinator could work in terms of function of like helping and supporting any roles. So what we also need is a stock check taking, because it's like there are so many tools and program already existing, but who knows about this, because like like each country have this and that open, but we really don't know it. Maybe we also need that as a, Dr. Sai said, is a kind of a tools or the database, right? Maybe not just talent, but maybe also the the each institute, they should make it known for the resource availability in ASEAN as well. So maybe that would be the research infrastructure would come in, because that would be the landscape study, which is another issue that maybe we can discuss tomorrow. Thank you.
may I ask one question, please? There's a emergence of the artificial intelligence, right? And what humans therefore can do or should do in the notion that you have mentioned, and what part can be done by artificial intelligence? Thanks.
Did he ask
Dr.
me?
Lily,
Oh,
please.
sorry, I didn't get it. What did you say? Sorry.
Adding on the topic on AI, regarding to the collaboration, how can artificial intelligence maybe help with the coordination?
Yes.
Yes. Start with people and then go to ChatGPT.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something that maybe
Yeah.
people could contribute into thinking of this.
Yeah.
I don't really have all the answer for that. Sorry.
Of course, thanks.
We have a lot to talk about. Okay, I'm trying to get us organized here so we can add on to a few things. Okay, are there okay, microphone please. I think Taro should come and sit here.
Thank you very
Do you wanna
much.
come and sit with me?
My name is Taro Sonobes. I'm working on particularly on the STI coordination matters. Fidero Sensei or many person finally meeting in person. Thank you very much. And then I just would like to add maybe a little bit introduce about the context of the ATM and the JASTIP and STI coordination. That Dr. Lily mentioned that these ATMs, I think this is one of their platforms initiated by the ASEANs. This is a new platforms. And then in order to sustain self-reliance, self-sustain this kind of the ATM new platforms, there should be the very need coordination parts. And this kind of the real research collaboration matters or talent mobility matters need to be also complementary supported by some coordination matters. So these kind of the coordinations, we can share the skills and the methodologies or know-how, a good practice, and what is the success story or the coordinations between ASEAN and Japan, what is the failure story or something like that things can be shared as human resource development. So I think what I want to say is how ATM, I understand that this is one of the platform newly initiated, and then we need to also develop the fundamental basis as coordination matters to sustain and to activate this ATM activity. So this is, I think, what we would like to also raise some issue, how coordinators can contribute to maximize the activity of the ATMs for ASEAN or under the dialogue partner. This is my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. I see Philippines looking at me, want to talk. Okay, Philippines and then Indonesia.
Yes, thank you for the time. So the Philippines, under the Science Education Institute, has been sending scholars to Japan. In fact, we have 58 scholars there. But the collaboration is just between my institute and that particular university. We have scholars in 11 universities in Japan. And it is successful because of the memorandum of understanding between that institution and my institution, which we have MOU with Nagoya University and Osaka University, just because some of the mentors from the Philippines are graduates of that institution. We want to send more scholars in Japan along priority areas because it is less expensive there compared to sending them to US or to Australia. But we want a focal person because if we do not know somebody from that university, how can we go forward? If there's a focal person that my agency can connect to, that will be very helpful.
Arthur?
Yeah, thank you. Indonesia would like to comment on this. Thank you, Chair. first of all, I'd like to thank you, JASTIP, for the long collaboration, especially with Indonesia, long history collaborations. And on these matters, I would like to extend the collaborations because currently now under BRIN, the Research Innovation and National Agency, we have several programs, which is then called the Research Mobility Program. It consists in a co-funding. We do have some budget, a supporting budget. Is a sustainability program because this talent management program is under a national decree, which is also we have a main goal until 2045. So it's quite a long program, and the supporting is very long. And regarding this matter, we like to extend the opening of collaboration first on the mobility. We do have several budget and support to invite scholars, professors, postdoctoral even, to be hosted in a research group in Indonesia. We do believe that our counterpart here, we have 5 professors coming from the BRIN, maybe in the Bioresource and Biodiversity Joint Laboratory. We're hoping that it could be extended. We believe that we have also energy environmental joint laboratory and disaster preventions. It could be extended also because we have 85 research centers in BRIN in Indonesia, which is regarding extended area. We are opening our laboratory to be hosting researchers and exchange. For example, the JASTIP has also the similar program. For example, like mobility. BRIN under the Directorate Talent Management, we have program that we can offer a quota of number for Japanese researchers, Japanese doctoral degree holders, for example, early career PhD, to come to Indonesia under our budget. So if there's any possibility, we can do some co-funding with JASTIP. Right? For example, we can share around 10, 20 quotas for researchers and exchange. JASTIP can also provide us the same number to be hosted as a visiting professor or visiting a postdoctoral in JASTIP hosted by your research group in Japan. Because in this matter, we will cover all the tuition fees, all the expenses, because the research activity under the JASTIP, especially on the bioresource and biodiversity, will act as a platform of collaborations. Now, the challenges on the collaboration is making or creating what we call the trust of collaborations. Since we have a very long collaboration, this acts a very prominent role, and we're hoping that could be extended also not under bioresources, but also from energy and disaster prevention risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Regarding maybe create a program together with joint co-funding. Okay. Do you want to respond on that? Is it possible?
Thank you. My name is Hiroshi Kamitaka, Kyoto University, Japan. Thank you for the nice introduction for the exchanging the scholars. This morning we have talked about something similar thing, and basically we the Japan side must have some scholarship or some budget for inviting the scholars. But yes, the system of the BRIN must work well in the future, and I think we'd like to do such a thing fit in the framework of the JASTIP. Thank you.
From Lao PDR.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before this session, this morning we discussed a number of issues to be raised with the JASTIP. So one of them is the having this kind of focal point, especially for staff exchange and other scholarship, so that we know clearly Japan has already provided a number of scholarship throughout the ASEAN. So through this ATM, Asian Talents Mobility, this will be another scope. So it will be good idea if we can have, I think, under this ATM project. Thank you.
So I think that is a good idea. to a little add-on, when we think about trying to develop collaboration, we can also do both like Japan and ASEAN, so it can benefit, yeah, all of the 10 member state as well as with Japan. Okay, yeah, if you think like broadly.
Okay. My name is Hideaki Ugakifunda. I'm from the JASTIP in Kyoto University. May I asking about the ATM itself, and then as the bring the representative said today, they have their own program or the budget or the scholarship program, and then so each other well known about each countries or each institutional the budget system or the scholarship system or program. Did you or have you share that kind of information? I think of course JASTIP is a kind of the project, and then we invited the bring to Kyoto University, and then we bring to scholarship them. But of course we don't know about the EO program or something. And then I believe ATM is between the ASEAN mobilities. And then in that sense, each of them has to be know well what kind of the resources can be available even between the ASEAN. And then of course, in case to Japan or something. So my question is that kind of the information was shared between the members. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Just proposing and how do we like not only mobilize, share the resources, because in ASEAN we do have a lot of resources. Many countries has their own budget and program regarding to like scholarship mobilization in this already. So when we start talking to each other, we're like, oh, we're something similar. Oh, this is new. So I think like one of the initiative we can do is just doing the sharing of what we have, like stock checking, like what Dr. Lily said of what the resource we have, and then maybe what the resource Japan have, and see how we can or synergize it. Yeah, synergize it together. So that's the one thing that we see that come out of our presentation and discussion so far. Yeah. But when you ask, is there like a centralized place to share? Not yet. Maybe it can be one of our houses. Yeah, that we can develop the coordination part. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to echo on that. So basically, when we want to ensure that everyone have the same share, I think it's best to streamline what we have and what we don't have. So, for example, Japan has a very successful stories of what they have already contributed so far, and Philippines bring with the network that they have. So each country have their own strength. So, for example, in Brunei, we do contact with Japan, but it's not on a bigger scale. It's basically to university contact. So, for example, like Philippines, we also have MOU with Osaka University. So we have internship, we have exchange of research students, but not in the context of the research itself. So I think that's where, in the context of Brunei, we are lacking, because we seldom really send our our researcher. It's more on the younger talent rather than the research itself. But we do have, for example, I've been involved with ASEAN IVO. I've been involved with some context of JASTIP initiatives. So maybe to look into a bigger scale, we can actually look into streamlining, as mentioned. So we can actually contact each university or each research talent or field. So because like JASTIP itself, we have a respective field, we can actually merge together and contact. So that's good, that in the sense we know where our strength is, so we can map with them. So in the sense, at the end of the day, it's mapping to which field, to which, so we can hone our skill further, as per mentioned in our 5 houses where the hard skill and soft skills are. Yeah, so that's from Brunei. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Gona Sumiadi from Indonesia. Just regarding the ATM concept that we are talking now here, that we're already discussing each of the Asian members to the Japan side about the expectation and the concept that we have. And then we are looking now for a kind of the centralized information platform. I just wonder if there is be any connectivity through the Secretariat of the ASEAN as well, perhaps just for using the platform, because we know that the some country like Indonesia now we do have the policy that we can support, provide funding through the other than the Indonesian citizens to convert, and the other country perhaps they cannot do that, but they need some informations. So regarding that one, we already know each other here between each of the Asian country, but perhaps we might have to bit elevate it to the function of the Secretariat of the ASEAN as well. Perhaps that's just my short things about how to be effective later on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The sharing. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning. I'm from the Philippines, the president of Isabela State University, and this is my first time to join the meeting with JASTIP. Well, actually, I just would like to share with you our experience with Kyoto University. We had some informal meetings with them, and we tried to look at the common areas of collaboration, especially with the DPRI. And we went into looking at what particular activity or engagement we should undertake. And since the Philippines, especially in the northern part of our country, is there's really frequent flooding every year, and we tried to submit a proposal, and it was funded both by the Japanese government and the Philippine government. We implemented the project together with Kyoto University, and we have a very good result. And because of that, we were able to open more collaborations with Kyoto University and DPRI. And now professors from Kyoto DPRI are now willing to come to the Philippines as visiting professors, and also students and even professors from university are now open for admission for advanced studies in Kyoto University. So what I'm trying to say is that let's start with knowing each other, and then trying to identify common interest, and then find out what specific say activities that would be undertaken in the future. Now we have a collaboration with the universities in Vietnam, University of Da Nang and the Toi Lo University. We were able to establish a platform. We call it F-Smart, and that was established, I think, when was that? Is it last year? And we are now using this as a venue for introducing new concepts, new ideas for further engagement with these universities in the ASEAN region. So maybe we can perhaps do that with JASTIP. And I would like to thank JASTIP that through JASTIP we're able to secure funding from APN, and we have already implemented the project, and we have a good results for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing the best practices. Okay, this side and then this side. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Pramila from Malaysia. I think a lot of discussion today is on mobility of people. We're talking about mobility of people, but I think what we are forgetting is mobility of ideas and mobility of skills and mobility of everything else. And when it comes to an expert group, or when it comes to maybe I start with the expert group first. Maybe ASEAN office should have some requirement on who should head for each country, so that no one is left behind. It sounds like, oh, if I'm an academician, I work with a university and I forget the other four main pillars, like the government, or like the community, or like the industry. So I think there are four main stakeholders here: government, university, community, and industry. And we are still talking about funding from government, a lot from the government side. But I think there's a lot of funding that we haven't tapped from the industry side. So I think the group, whoever forms this ATM, you should have a criteria on who should hit the two partners, or from each country. You should pressure that country to give the proper you give some kind of requirement on who should become the member of the STI coordinators, so that you can get everyone together on board. Yeah, people are talking about, and then we have these four stakeholders, and this is where the other stakeholder which we should introduce, whereby this will be known as consortium of experts covering all the stakeholders. This consortium of experts should be in certain area. For example, like I think Philippines talked about disaster. So the consortium experts should be in the disaster area, but in all the ASEAN countries we should have some experience shared together. And it's like, if you have an MOU, then you talk. And if you don't have an MOU, then we don't talk. And as ASEAN partners, we should have like a open science. I think nowadays is a lot of open science and open databases, and where we should share the information. And if there's something going on in Philippines, we should be able to share some experience, and we should be able to learn something from Philippines, not relatively just from Japan. So I think that kind of partnership and things like that. So I strongly suggest the STI coordinator or the ATM expert, you should have some kind of criteria before they become that expert for that country. Or not, it's just going to be a very beautiful plan or blueprint, but nothing is going to come out of it. Yeah. So, and also probably you should think about the sustainability of this, where you have a lot of younger people getting into it who will take over from you. Yeah. So we are very, we are very like senior, and then you forget all the juniors, and then you're just sending them for this one, and then they come back, graduate. Of course, I'm a product of Kyoto University. So what happens next? What do I bring back to Malaysia? Or things like that. So how we can incorporate all this is to have this consortium of experts where this ATM fits very well, or JASTIP could become that platform where this consortium of experts come in, and there's a pressing agenda, and that pressing agenda, this consortium experts can come in. The STI coordinator of that country should bring all the stakeholders together, the government, the university, the community, the industry, so that we have enough funding from all these partners. Yeah, so I think that is my point of view, my humble point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To consider the kind of the whole chain, from the talent, from the young to the expert, and how to, as the mechanism in collaboration, working with the collaboration consortium of experts. Yes.
May I give a comment to that comment? That was a really interesting way of thinking, I think. And of course, the government of ourselves, as Kono Sensei told, not so great now. Therefore, diversification of the funders are really important. But in point of view, it would be very important for us to know the needs of those stakeholders. And that would be very diversified, again, between countries too. So it would be very important, or at least important for us to know all those. How we can do you think? That is my question. Especially with the community, it's not so easy.
That is why, Sensei, the STI coordinator for that country should be a person who can bring about all these stakeholders together to understand what is pressing in that country. For example, the problem in Indonesia may be different from Malaysia, may be different from Philippines, or may be different from Brunei or Singapore. But they would have some experiences, or maybe they could have some funding that they would want to help another fellow ASEAN member. So the pressing issue should not just be, oh, we are going to work on AI, but it could be AI in certain area, or it could be AI in agriculture, perhaps. You know, so there is a main issue, but then it might be another, another co-current issue going on. So JASTIP, or the ATM expert, you should become the consortium where, okay, if this pressing issue, for example, like Malaysia, floods is a big problem. Every year we face it. It's not that we are out of money, we have good money to solve the problem, but probably sometimes our decisions are made based on an experience in Japan. But Japanese floods and Malaysian floods are so different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Therefore, yes, we needed to match all those. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
And then maybe some experience from Philippines may solve the Malaysian problem, but we are not discussing with Philippines. So where do we come together?
Coordination between those
Correct.
two.
Yeah, where do we come together? So the ATM expert or the consortium of experts must be a field where you have shared experiences, and you must be more open.
Right.
We
Let's
don't
think
work in
about how we can grow such human resources.
Yes,
Thanks so
yes.
much.
Thank you so much, Sensei.
Yeah. As much as I understand, one of the aim of MJIIT is to make a coordination of collaboration network within ASEAN regions. And why you couldn't do it, for example, particularly with Philippines? Yeah. What was the obstacle? What was a constraint for you to break?
Okay, we have 29 Japanese partners, to be exact. We have 29 university Japanese partners. But in the same case, the Japanese partner would not want to talk to you because probably they don't know you. The president and president know each other. But after that, who takes up the matter? That's why I'm saying it should not just be the seniors. You should involve some level of the juniors where the relationship can work. We were not successful because of this. The president knows the president. We say hello every year, but nothing happens. Yeah, so if we're going to do the same thing here,
so the coordinator should know the president and the junior.
Should not be the president.
And also not only in one country, all the countries, the president
Correct.
and juniors in all the countries
Yeah.
or coordination. Okay. Q is like this, this, and then this. Okay. That's what I said. Okay. First 2 minutes, please. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. And I'm very delighted that now disaster is on the table to discuss. So I'm from Vietnam, from Thủy Lợi University, so very much focused in water and disaster problems in Vietnam. And I participate in JASTIP as a working group for the disaster management. And yes, indeed, it's very interesting and very important issue that bring young people together on boat, to get them on board with us, because we are getting older. And for JASTIP, yes, we was very successful last year to bring a lot of young people from Malaysia, also Malaysia and Philippines and Vietnam. Young people, they share a lot of things together, because I don't know whether you have the problems in Vietnam. We are going to have the shortage of water professionals. Whether these topics still interest for young people. So climate change is common issue for it's long battle, and whether we have enough human resource to cope with that. So mobilization is important. For that, we need money, budget, and we need motivation. So that is very important to put in the agenda for us to think, and because mobilization is not just to share the idea. I think to join the effort to deal with we have common problems. Disaster doesn't care about borders. We all know that it's a regional problem. We have the same issue. It's not the flood sometimes happen the same time in Philippines and Vietnam, and then later on move to Laos or Cambodia. So we have the same problems. Yeah. So I think the mobilization need the engage of all the decision makers, scientists, senior and young people. That is very important to create the platform that everyone participate. So as you mentioned, funding is there, but how for us to approach in ASEAN with own the reputation, I think we can approach because they have IDB also have program for young professionals, UNESCO also, but how we bring all these actors to talk with us. Is the
Thank
question
you
for
very
us.
much.
Yes.
Just a funny note, my mentor said funding is in the air. You can grab it as long as you get good project and make it a win-win situation. How might we coordinate the different priorities and have it as one priority? Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you. Federal, please.
Yeah, thank you, Fidero from Cambodia. So as we have the ASEAN Secretariat here, may I kindly ask ASEAN Secretariat to share us, especially for the private sector partners, because under AEC we have also mobilization of integration of the private partner to join our activity. Probably there is something that we can extract what they need, but could be the most important input for our program we are discussing. Thank you.
Yeah, before we respond, we just to quickly comment to the input from Malaysia. Totally agree that ATM Secretariat should make sure the right focal point to be included in the expert group. And then secondly, AMS need to explore the possibility of emulating MJIIT. This is actually a request from our top management as well, because it has been working well in Malaysia. Other AMS should explore the possibility of emulating what MJIIT is doing. Japan's comment, we need to understand the demand from the ASEAN side, totally agree as well. Also quickly on the question raised by Indonesia, is there any platform that could glue together all the remarkable telemobility program at the national level? Do we have the platform? The answer is we don't have it yet, but we hope through the ATM Expert Group, it will be established very soon. Right, going back to your question, so the question is about the existing entry points or possibility for cooperation. Yes, through AEC in ASEAN Secretariat, we are engaging with quite a lot of private sectors in ASEAN Secretariat, especially with JETRO. Right now, through COSTI, STI, we do not have a formal engagement yet, but all this demand, we can gather all this demand and we can re-engage with our partner through the mission and also with JETRO. I would also like to highlight here is one possible entry point to merge what we are doing in ATM, ACI coordinators and JASTIP, is to get both Japanese government and the private sector support by picking up whatever is working very well at the national level, try to expand it, get more AMS involved, and then elevate it to the regional level. This way we can have more possibility to get funding from Japan, our government, and also from the private sector. This is through engagement with the Japanese private sectors. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? We hear aspect from the ASEAN Secretariat saying the platform has not been yet, so I think it's up to us as well, experts. Okay, to do that.
Thank you very much. My name is Kamarul Azhari Raza. I'm from Disaster Preparedness Prevention Center. Thank you, Dr. Pramila. Couple of inputs for consideration. Well, definitely for ASEAN Secretariat, we are looking forward to share some of the best practice that we have done under MJIT. And one of the most successful product, I would say, the establishments of the Disaster Preparedness and Prevention Center back in 2015. After the both Malaysian government, Malaysia and Japan government agreed to establish a national center, after 2015 Sendai framework launching, back then we are talking about 7 years experience. So we learned a lot from the past 7 years. One of the example that I would like to highlight today about the mobilities. Of course, with the helps of JICA, we have a Dr. Sohim Matsura here attached to JICA, from JICA attached to DPPC MJIT. He helped a lot into building connecting between Japan and Malaysia. I think we need that kind of strong figure to know the needs and demand. It's not about the networking, but it's about filling up the gaps between both countries. So DPPC, in short, is a living evidence how basically we establish later on what we call it Masters of Disaster Risk Management, the first and the only disaster program where we dispatch many Japanese professors to Malaysia. I think we provide higher education learning in ASEAN based in Kuala Lumpur. We attract many disaster manager in ASEAN. So we have been trained many hundreds of disaster professionals and managers who come back to their countries and learn about that. I like to echo from Dr. Pramila. Yes, Malaysia has a lot of problems with flooding, but we learn a lot from Japan, not only on the knowledge but also on the technology. Through the PPC, we bring in a lot of technology from Japan, but it's a locally adapted between our ASEAN countries, and we learn from our ASEAN partners as well. But something that I think worth to mention within these 2 minutes is about how basically we use JASTIPs. I graduated from Europe, so I never been in Japan last 10 years. So my experience as one of the JASTIP recipients last 7 years, it helps me a lot. You have to build the trust with Japanese. I think Kono Sensei, the WP4 Professor Sumi Takara Sensei help a lot in this process, giving more opportunity to the young professionals who have a lot of ideas, but they are lacking of the networking and financial support. That was the stories of 7 years ago. Now I'm talking about next 7 years, what we are planning to do under DPPC, how we sell the idea of JASTIP and DPPC MJIT to not only at ASEAN, but we recently completed a project funded by APEX, Asia Pacific Economic Corporations. They learned a lot from our JASTIP and ASEAN initiative. Then we use that funding to upscale, replicate the same stories, success stories to the ASEAN 21 APEX countries. This is another issues that we have to think of co-benefits. It's not just about impact, but it must come with the income, impact and income. So you have to get some international co-funding to support your yearly operations. So I think JASTIP ASEAN ATM provide a lot of opportunity, but we need to think of beyond than these territories. APEX is one of the example how we explore a lot of, say for example, APEX Climate Center, a lot of funding, but they are solving the same issues like disaster management in ASEAN. So in a way that we can have a similar aspects, but we are solving a different interests of a different region. That's number 2. And number 3, I think I support the ideas of Professor Kono, how basically we can strengthen JASTIP to look into how basically, for example, disaster management under work package number 4, it's not a single centric module. Disaster management can be also discussed within the context of food security, for example. So it's not, you look at disaster management as one separate entity, but it's actually it's a cross-cutting issues. Then we can attract much more funding in the future based on the similar consortiums or interests. So a couple of things for consideration. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments or ideas? I'm trying to capture everything, and it's going to be in a very nice story, and we can pick out a lot of initiative to do. When we talk about a lot of things has to do with funding, the funding, as we were saying, but funding is not everything. We need to to look at like why we're doing it, and then what is the real need, understanding the need, and then once we build the right network and coordination and project based on the need, I still believe funders would like to give money. Yeah, that's what I feel, because right now I'm in a funding agency and I'm so looking for a lot of good projects. Now I'm in the other area, so like we can learn from each other and how to develop like the best ASEAN Japan project to initiate. Yes. Okay. Any other comments and aspect? We have a lot of appetizers right now. I hope you're starting to get hungry, and then we can continue the discussion later on. Okay, Tara, please.
So yes, so again from Sonobe, so just I put appetizers from the behind of the curtain, but anyway, I think the in reality of the I really agree with the Pramiya-san's about the importance of such kind of the fostering coordination realities. One of the things is the important thing is to establish the communities which really supports the let's say the contribution or activity for the coordination. And then basically in reality, I'm working for just not a researcher, it's mainly administrator coordinators. We basically conduct this kind of the activity based on the, let's say, appreciation or just not driven by the incentive of the money actually. It's good for the society or something. But this is a little bit hard to convince myself sometimes. Also, probably it may be difficult for the young researcher or young talent to convince herself or himself. But if we establish a very good atmosphere of the communities, they supervise our mentors can support that kind of activity, and then they can anyway work for more, let's say, more positively, or let's say more productivity or as a profession. So that kind of the establishment of the very collaborative atmosphere of the community are really important. So that's why I think we may discuss about these matters, just not only the very tangible matter, but also this kind of the more intangible matter. It's very important. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Any other comments and suggestions? Okay, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julie. This is actually my first time attending this meeting. Thank you to Kono Sensei and the Japanese team for inviting me. I am with Kyoto University, not Japanese, originally from the Philippines. I'm just wondering, I suppose this is also a question for the Japan team. I think certainly there are difficulties within Japan with regards to its financing, and the government is not in the strongest position to fund certain projects. But I think it's also the case that certain priority areas are going to get quite an outsized share of the pie over the coming years, and energy being one of them. And this is clearly a key priority area by Japan, and they have pledged significant money in this area over the coming decades. And largely a realization that, you know, if they are not able to shift their economy to a more to meet some of the pledges that they have made under the Paris Agreement, and to reach 2050 net zero emissions, which again is a key priority of the government. Fundamental to this strategy is really looking at the potential that exists within ASEAN. So in my interviews, for example, with large companies in Japan, they do say that they're looking at not just technology transfer to ASEAN as a way to sort of restarting growth also within the industry in Japan, but also to try to identify possible areas for wind, solar, etc. within ASEAN, and even geothermal. So I think I'm just wondering if I mean, certainly it's important to recognize the constraints, but also probably the potential that might exist, tapping into, say, key areas like energy and also the industry within Japan, many of which are also operating in ASEAN in the area of energy. And they do see ASEAN as a key partner to achieving their net zero emissions. So I would like to know what might be opportunities for collaboration or maybe co-funding between Japan and ASEAN in this aspect.
So the question is, are there the key priorities for the collaboration for Japan as well as the setting? Key point in priorities, topics, or industry? Well, that's a hard question. Yeah.
Well, actually, we have, of course, the priorities that may not match so well with the other countries because we need to be independent to each other. So how we can match is the somehow political issue. Let's go on.
All right. I think that's a further discussion in lunchtime. All righty. Okay. So due to the interest of time, I would like to thank you everybody for your contribution. And we try to map out and write out the opportunities like here, and we'll make it more legible. But in summary, I think we need to understand the obstacle and the enabler to start to build more collaboration between ASEAN and Japan. For example, the first one is like actually is the priority. We need to see what's Japan priority and can it match with ASEAN priority as well. And then therefore we know the need of each other. So one of the key mechanisms should be coordination. Understanding, know where the resources and know the people. I think knowing who and then knowing how it does help. So SDI coordinator is very important. So how can we build the coordination program and linkage? How can we set up like focal points? I think the ATM Expert Group can be the STI coordinators as that. And then JASTIP can also share your program, the skills development capacity building program for the human resource as coordinator. We need to find ways, various creative ways to mobilize our talent. Also based on when I see a lot of like bilateral or institution to institution mobilization, it's also really good practice. But how can we scale up that in order to be an ASEAN? And it would benefit all. I think that would be a great, maybe key landscape study to extract, and then only like that, and we can also map the talent and where the talent should be. And then mobilizing, I put not just funding, how can we mobilize and share resources? Resources, both funding and from government, private sectors, and also mobilize or sharing of data, the important data, so for us to understand each other. So that might be another key topic of interest. And then how can we align the common interests, key priorities, both for industry or research academia, and how can that help? So there are various, ASEAN Secretariat say a few of the key priorities, and each of our countries also have key priorities. Japan also have key priorities, maybe another session on looking at the priorities. All the thing is that in the beginning, we should align ourselves, and then we should develop the framework for the skill set and diverse method of mobilizing and balancing also between science and applied science. So in each of the program, maybe we can look into that. And lastly, based on the expected outcome, so mechanism in collaboration, it seems like we have to start with friendship and building trust for a long term. So coming face to face, I'm so happy here, by the way, seeing each other so I can see people look into my eye, wanting to talk like that. And sometimes, sorry, I didn't see everybody. Instead of looking at Zoom and finding it like that, it's not so much fun. So start with, I think we have a good start from building friendships. And then to understand each other, the coordination is very important. From what I see, the coordinator have to do a lot of hard work. So I see from her, I think she's super coordinator. So how can we build a community to support the coordination, right? So maybe ATM, all the houses can help build that community to help support the coordination, so they won't be so hard. And then have a team of consortium of experts and maybe team to help implement and guide, not only like one person, coordinate and implement. that's not actually possible maybe. And so at the end, I think sharing, understanding, and building of best practices from the program, maybe, and for the national level, because I see you have a lot. I'm so impressed with the program, and to build into the regional and ASEAN level would be good. A lot to talk about. The appetizers are here, so hopefully the main course, you can split out into groups. Hopefully, like we can join together, chit chatting and talking a little bit about more. And then tomorrow we'll have more opportunity, maybe the whole morning, and then afternoon as well, to talk a little bit more about. Concluding a little bit into dessert side of what we can do next.